Hello again, everyone. My name is Zach Stoffer, and this is the It's So Over podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I have something good for y'all this episode. Just letting y'all know that this episode's going to be a little more serious, less full of memes, distractions, and whatever chaos I usually put into these. I just don't want to dilute the message. I feel like it's really important and it's something that is very meaningful to me in my life recently, and I want to be able to share it with y'all without, being too distracting or letting my ADHD taking control. And I want to start with just being completely open and honest and say that this year has not gotten off to a great start for me. I have definitely been struggling. Life has had its way with me recently. And I feel like in a lot of ways I have been drowning. And I feel like there have been moments this year where I've had, good times like starting this podcast just this last weekend. I cannot tell you the joy that I felt from that and just how excited and happy I was. But then come like Sunday, Monday, I just came back down to earth. This is all really stressful. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. There's a lot of stuff that goes into planning these episodes, into making sure that it's meaningful, that it's not just me sitting here in front of a camera yapping about topics and things that people won't care about. And don't get me started on the camera and professional microphone setup. Figuring that out has been a pain, but it will happen soon, I promise. 1% better every week. But like I was saying before, last weekend I just felt so motivated. I was like, man, like life is good again. This is where, we had a rough start to the year, but this is where things start to pick up. This is where things start to, figure it out and level out, and, we're going to be cruising from here on, right? I was very wrong. But I now find myself kind of back in the water drowning a little bit again. And something about me is when I'm having a hard time, it's not just the hard time that I'm having, it's all of the hard times before stacked on top of it. I have this really bad habit of it's never the moment that I'm in that causes me to be upset. It's all of the moments before it added on to it. It's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's always a lot of weight that I carry from previous things, and then the next newest thing that lets me down, just I just crash out. And when I tend to crash out and stack all these life failures on top of each other, something that I like to do and something that I've done recently that helps me is I like to take a step back. I like to try to have perspective on my life and maybe get out of my own shoes for a minute and walk around without them. And in the same way that I like to stack all of my failures and problems when I'm going through a hard time, I also like to try and have some gratitude. I try to take a step back and also look at, all the good things that have happened in my life. Like last year was so genuinely one of the most difficult, but one of the most fulfilling years of my life. I mean, I wrote an entire book. I made friends and had experiences that, that meant the world to me. And all of these things that I accomplished and all these things that I did, they came from a similar time when I was feeling some bit like I am now. And I also love to just draw the line of all the little connections like, well, if this didn't happen, then this never would have happened. And if this never would have happened, then that never would have happened. And eventually, for me at least, I draw enough of a line back to, I'm like, like everything had to have happened for a reason. And I live by that because, I feel like had three terrible things not happen to me, well, this podcast wouldn't exist. I wouldn't have written a book. I wouldn't have the outlook on life that I do. That, even though I have gone through a lot this year and I went through a lot last year, I'm still so grateful and I'm happy to be here. And to be completely honest, I really am truly so grateful. So few things have gone right in my life. I feel like there's a pattern here, and this leads into the subject of this episode. I feel like, and this my personal belief, that if you got everything you wanted in life, you would never be truly happy. Now, I know what your immediate thought to that is. Well, if I had my dream job, $1 million plus or $1 bajillion, and I got everything I wanted, well, I would not be lacking in anything. What more could you want? I would be so happy. Well, I have an arguing point to that. You're going to have to hear me out now, all right? It's going to start with a story. So, as I kind of alluded to, last year was one of the most beneficial years for my life. I overcame much. I accomplished so much. I mean, my book in and of itself, I reference it a lot, but it is priceless in what it taught me and what it helped me accomplish and overcome. And finishing that first draft, just it means still the world to me. And while my book, the story of it and the contents of it are going to be for another podcast episode, eventually it will get published, I promise people. What the book meant for me is truly in what it taught me. And in the journey of writing my book, it taught me self love. It taught me identity. It taught me purpose. It taught me to understand that to accomplish great things, sometimes you have to go through great pain. And along with all of those life lessons, it also taught me one of the most valuable in that I don't need someone else to validate my existence, that I am okay being alone, that I don't need a relationship to save me or anything like that. And that was probably one of the biggest eye-opening lessons that I had to learn last year. And it was so important because I realized for so much of my life I was like this raging open wound, just bleeding all over people. I looked to friendships and relationships as this coping mechanism that could save me, that could, you know, make me whole in the ways that I didn't feel I was. And I just struggled so much with any friendship, with any relationship, and just been across the board a mess in a lot of ways. And for so long, love especially was something I viewed as salvation. I viewed myself as incomplete without a partner. And I viewed it as something that could save me from drowning, something that could, give me an anchor or help me find land or anything like that. And for those who know me any bit, y'all know I've been through it with dating. I could have an entire podcast just on my dating experiences alone. And I'm telling you, it's a choice every day that I make to not be one of those TikTok people that vents about how terrible dating is nowadays. I'm telling you, I have so much ammunition, it's not even funny. With that aside, with my desire and this pursuit of love that I've had my whole life, I realize that I have been pulling people into the water with me, and I've been causing them to drown as well as a result. And as I've come to this place, as I've taken a step back from my life, my problems, my issues, all these things that I have going on, um, I came across a TikTok.
Something just came across my desk, John.
Felt like that was too good not to use. As I feel most great epiphanies come these days from some reel or TikTok or whatnot, it was this movie quote here.
Life is a pond, and you've spent your entire life leaping from woman to woman as if they are lily pads upon this great pond. Perhaps what you need to do, Quill, is learn to swim.
And I know what y'all are thinking. I just used Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy for a really meaningful clip. But, you know, the message may not be the exact context of the movie. But to me, when I saw it, I interpreted it as this. In all of my years of struggling to have relationships, to have friendships, to find love, and my failures in doing so, I feel like it was less God or the universe telling me that I couldn't have those things, that I wasn't worthy, that I was undeserving or anything like that. And I think in the same regards of this analogy is these were just lily pads for me. They were excuses to not work on myself, to not realize the glaring wound or issue that lied underneath. They were all coping mechanisms in their own way. And I think in being denied these things for so many years and for so many experiences across different states, I feel like it has been teaching me this whole time to learn, to grow, to become, to overcome all of my own personal limitations, flaws, and shortcomings. And not just that, but also helping me come to a place of gratitude that when I have that relationship someday, when I have, you know, consistent friendships in my life that I'll be so grateful for them because I've done the work to be able to have those things want to be a part of my life. And you know what? Had I not gone through all of these crazy things, had I not had such setbacks and terrible experiences, I feel like I wouldn't be grateful for the place that I'm in today. I wouldn't be filled with gratitude. I would be upset. And I feel like if I just got handed everything, then I wouldn't have grown nearly as much in the ways that I'm proud to say that I have today. And that, my friends, has led me so strongly to believe and feel as the core beliefs and statements of my life is that my life has been so little of what I've wanted, but it has been so much of what I've needed. And I will live and die by that. And I could not be more grateful for that. Like I've said, I've had so many experiences, so many trials and errors. I mean, writing the book, starting this podcast, I mean, just trying to make friends and be social and try to have somewhat of a consistent, stable life here since I've moved to Utah a year ago. It's been hard. It's been so rough. And almost nothing has gone according to plan or been simple. But it's because of all of these detours and all of these struggles and all of these things that I've had to overcome that I find myself, despite being in a similar place I was back then, I'm just filled with gratitude because I can map the entire journey that I've been on. I see all of the things that I have overcome, all of the difficulties that I conquered, and all the things that I've learned about myself along the way. So, whenever there's a friend that doesn't treat me right, or a girl that I put a lot of time, hope, energy, effort, money into, all of that, she treats me like crap or ghosts me or anything like that, I remind myself that I've been here before. I've overcome this, and I'm so proud of how I continue to grow, learn, and overcome. And my dear friends, I feel like this is life for the most of us. We all have certain things that we want so badly, certain things that we feel are made for us that we cannot exist or survive without them. We may have different lily pads in this great pond that we cling to, that we jump across, but maybe in not achieving or accomplishing or having all the lily pads that we want, maybe God or the universe is trying to teach us something far better, and that is to swim, to learn to overcome your insecurities, weaknesses, faults, to understand them, and to learn for yourself, to stop drowning, like I feel I have. Ultimately, this life matters so little about what we do and what we don't get. It's about who you decide to be despite the adversity, the setbacks, and the trials that you have. Who you choose to be and how you choose to overcome them. That is what matters. That is where character is formed, and that is where we find ourselves in a much more honest light than we may ever have before. And so I want to ask you all right now, are you leaping from lily pad to lily pad? Are you looking for different escapes from a much deeper core wound or issue? And if you are, I would invite you to stop. Let yourself fall into the water. It's going to be rough. You may be drowning for a little bit, but if you keep kicking your legs, if you keep trying, and if you keep doing your best, which is always enough, eventually you'll start swimming. And it feels so much better than drowning. I hope all of you learn that the tough setbacks you face, the rough moments that you have, all of these things that set you back have so much purpose in them. There is purpose in everything. I so firmly believe that. I know that I would not be anything or be doing anything that I am today if it weren't for all of these hard times that I've overcome. And the beautiful thing is, and I said this in the last episode and I'll say it again, is I'm no different, I'm no better than, and I am surely not stronger than any of y'all. We all have many trials we will face in this life. But I know just as I've overcome mine, you too can overcome yours and learn to swim. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. I apologize if it was a little too introspective or deep. Some episodes are going to be like that. I'm going to keep you all on your toes. You never know if I'm just going to be smiling, giggling, and there's going to be a million memes in here, or if I'm going to be talking about some really personal stuff and borderline breaking down and crying. I guess y'all just have to find out as you tune in each week. But first of all, I just want to say real quick, thank you so much to all the people that have been giving me feedback. I did not realize that a lot of the memes and things that I put in the last video were like jump scares and really loud and disproportionate to the audio. So if there's any more feedback that y'all want to give, please, I appreciate it. It helps me because I'll say this a million more times. I don't know what I'm doing. We're figuring this out as we go, but with a little bit of help and a little bit of patience from y'all, I promise that I will make this into the best thing that I can, because that's what I want to do. I want to help all of you through my lived and learned experiences and hopefully have some of y'all on here to do the exact same thing. But with all of this yapping aside, thank you so much for being here. You are strong, you are capable, and I know you can overcome anything that is currently in your life. Now, this episode may be so over, but next week and every week after, we will be so very back. My name again is Zach Stauffer. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see y'all next week. Thank you.